My ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services.
We're tired of meddling overseas. We can't afford it. Our empire will collapse if we keep sending our money to other countries. I never picked a fight with the country that's tried to take me out here because I've never voted for foreign aid to any country. We got to take care of America first. America first. America first. America first. America first. America first.
Our Constitution has not been allowed to work since 1945 and maybe even earlier. And they have been working behind the scenes to bring about a one-world totalitarian socialist government with the Communist Manifesto as its platform through the United Nations.
Hi there. That was a little messed up, but oh well. Hey, it's live, so just expect at least 3 screw-ups when we start the show. Welcome to the show, and that was Massey. It was also, let's see here. It was also the King, King Charles, and King Charles saying...
My ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services.
Lovely. And of course, we knew, right? We've been talking about it for a long time, but of course we knew that as it's rolling in, and of course the king and all of his stuff, has to talk about that. And then also Thomas Massey. And that was kind of interesting too. Let me play this one. Hold on.
We're tired of meddling overseas. We can't afford it. Our empire will collapse if we keep sending our money to other countries. I never picked a fight with the country that's tried to take me out here because I've never voted for foreign aid to any country.
So Midwest Melissa's with me, and that was interesting. So what happened to Massey? He's out of a job, and Thomas Massey. So did you want to give your 2 cents, Melissa?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the handwriting's been on the wall for a while for Massey because Trump took a very strong dislike to him. And every time everything I have seen come from Massey, I kind of liked.
Right.
So I'll just share. So this is Trump flexing for sure. And dare I say the word Trojan horse in connection with Trump?
Yeah.
Because I think he's playing his hand right now too. I don't think it's America first. I love this quote. Did you hear the quote from Massey? I don't know whether it was yesterday or this morning. He said, "I would have come out sooner, but it took a while to find Ed Galrin in Tel Aviv."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things kind of stirring around about Massey.
Yeah,
not about him, but Trump's dislike for him. And I'm just wondering, at what point do we ask ourselves whether Trump is? I know what your answer to this is going to be. You've always said it, but he's a Trojan horse. He's bringing in all kinds of things that we don't like. And Massey has kind of been vocal in opposition to some things that Trump was talking about. And those things that Massey was opposing, I oppose as well. So I don't know. What do you think about it?
It was interesting with the information going around. Ed Galrin received 10,854 mail-in ballots tonight, and Thomas Massey lost by 10,280. So that's not a coincidence. And so there's a lot of back and forth right now. And hi, everybody joining on YouTube and Facebook and X and Rumble. Really appreciate you guys. My comments will always be so unpopular that I don't want to start off the show that way. Maybe towards the end I'll talk about
let's talk about the other unpopular guy. Let's talk about King Charles then.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, number one, yes, rigged elections. We're getting a text in. Yes, rigged elections. So
Yes.
everything's rigged, and it's been that way since a long time. For a long time, that was Bill Cooper on one of the clips coming in, and he was talking about, we haven't been running our Constitution since 1945. I actually think a little bit before that, but also we've had election fraud for so many years, and what do? It's there, and you can't convince people. People just want to believe. I'm going to take a phone call real fast, though. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kate.
Yeah.
You may not want to say it, that's fine, but I will. Concerning Galrine, here's the thing: the last 3 elections, the opponent to Massey got a combined total of 45,000 votes. Somehow, Galrine last night, a man who would not debate in any debate with Massey, nor would he answer his questions on gun control or his views on abortion. Massey gets the NRA support and the endorsement of the GOA, gun owners, as well as the Kentucky right to life. And somehow Galrine gets 57,000 votes last night. No, Trump doesn't have the grip that they're saying. They're all in to get rid of one voice, the one man that is standing up to the final push for the New World Order. We're all boxed in under the Republican GOP that we have to break away from as of this point going forward. And Massey seems like the man, the way he was talking last night about Tel Aviv, that could lead this fight.
Okay. Hey, thank you for the call. Do you guys remember what Bill Cooper just said? For just a second, Melissa. I just want to talk about this for just a second. Hold on.
America.
Okay, so just listen to what Bill Cooper had to say.
Our Constitution has not been allowed to work since 1945 and maybe even earlier. And they have been working behind the scenes to bring about a one-world totalitarian socialist government with the Communist Manifesto as its platform through the United Nations.
Oh, I didn't get the other part. Here we go.
You know how many?
Oh, for some reason I must have cut it off. He talked about they want us fighting over the Jewish people. They do not want, or the Jews. They do not want us fighting over the Satanists. They don't want us talking about the Satanists. And I think everything always comes down to that. I think everything that happens in Washington is theater. And I think that it gets uncomfortable to say that. I know it's uncomfortable to hear it. And I say it over and over and over again. And I still think everything is theater. So right now, it's the back and forth about the Jews 24/7 right now in the press. And before that, we never really had that conversation in the press because we weren't allowed to talk about anything. And then all of a sudden we were allowed to. So you have to kind of wonder why that is. And then, of course, I just think that it's a way to get people talking about anybody but those that run things. So that's my take.
I'm going to
that's my
interrupt
take.
here.
Okay.
Because the Satanists and we
the Satanists that
have
pretend to be
Epstein,
Jews,
who's connected to Mossad and MI6 and the whole network. How do we know that talking about some of this is not all the same problem? And I'm not being anti-Semitic here, and I'm not laying that at the feet of all Jewish people. I'm laying that at the feet of a very elite group of people like the Mossad who have an agenda, and that it is not a nice agenda. And they are pulling the strings in a lot of places. I don't even know that they're pulling it's not a Jewish thing. I think it's part of the whole global elite problem that we have. I think it's all, what is the shadow government? It's all of that wrapped into one. It's Satanists. It's, Mossad, it's CIA. Just like I don't blame all of the American people for the CIA. I'm not going to take responsibility for them. Nor do I think Jewish people worldwide should. But I do have real reservations when we see how many senators are bought by AIPAC.
Yeah.
Like, why does another country have so much interest in controlling and manipulating our electoral system?
I know when I say this, I lose audience because it's really tough to put my views out there because my views are pretty controversial, and I get that, and I understand everybody has a different view. When I look at things, I was watching Massey, and I always tended to like Massey and Rand Paul and a couple of those people, not very many others, but just a few, right? Because you like what they're saying, and what they're saying is going to be point on, right? It's going to be good. And but in a world where I realize how much stage there is, and then I was looking at Massey saying he was considering a run for president, and I was thinking, Massey's background, there's a few things that were strange in Massey's background, and that would put him in the elite club. So it was kind of strange to see him so vocal, and I would tend to think that people play more parts than we have the reality of the thing. So I think the world is more of a stage in government than it is a reality. And I think that we are caused to argue and fight and war over this. And I think the people that run things are super happy when we do that. And I think they keep that going because Marjorie's in the press today. And everyone's talking about Marjorie, Massey, Lauren, where everybody's talking about the same figures, and we're always talking usually about the same people. So I always think it's more of a stage than anyone wants to admit. And I think that is a very controversial view. People don't like it when I say that. Well, you don't have to listen, I guess. So I'm just going to be straight up. I just see it more as like a play. I see it more as theater. So what are we talking about today?
Well, let's a walk back in history. And
Okay.
I'm a big believer that looking at the past can help to illuminate the present.
Okay.
And I think this story has a lot of things that we can take to heart and bring with us into our day that it helps us to understand where we are and how we got there, for one thing. But the other thing is, I think it speaks to us about some things. So we're going to go back to the Gilded Age, and let's do a little deep dive. I know you've done a lot of deep dives on John D. Rockefeller. But let's do it again. Okay. Because I think there's a question about John D. Rockefeller that is very seldom explored. And I can tell you why in a minute. But let's talk about some of this. We'll have to get into his family, his early life, his own father, and then the origins of his business. And then we can talk about like the rest of Standard Oil and what Rockefeller did with his money and why he did it that way. But just in a nutshell, let's start at this point. John D. Rockefeller, the Rockefeller family before 1858 had nothing. They were nobodies. They weren't upper middle class. They weren't any middle. Right. They weren't any kind of class. John D. Rockefeller's father was a guy named William Avery Rockefeller, and he was a snake oil salesman. Truly, he was known to be a con man. Traveled throughout the country with his wagon selling patent medicines. He would blow into a town. He would set himself up as a doctor. Okay. He usually did it under an assumed name. He called himself Dr. William Levston. And then he sold what he called, he called himself a botanical physician. And what most of the things were that he was selling was alcohol and whatever else he chose to put in it. And he had a sliding price scale. He charged you what he thought you could afford. So not the most reputable guy, right? In 1849, William Avery Rockefeller was indicted for rape at gunpoint in New York, at which point he picks up the family and says, we got to get out of here to avoid a trial. And he moves his wife and kids to a new location. I think that's when they moved over toward Cleveland, Ohio. Anyway, by 1856, William Avery Rockefeller had married himself a second wife in Ontario, Canada. No divorce, no nothing. He had two wives. and he had two families. And so from the time John D. Rockefeller was a young man, his father had abandoned their family and was living now with a second family in Canada for a while. Ultimately, he dies in Freeport, Illinois in 1906, and his father is buried under the false name. And his funeral and headstone and grave plot were all paid for by his second wife. And in fact, when John D. Rockefeller became very famous, the press offered $8,000 and spent 18 months looking for his father. Now, that's all kind of relevant to what we're going to talk about in a minute, because John D. Rockefeller, then, as he was growing up, this is the kind of not entirely stable family life that he grew up with. By the time of the Civil War, by about 1863, he was 23 years old. He was a bookkeeper with a company that was selling fruit on commission. He was a salesman selling fruit on commission to whoever buys fruit, and it is speculated that he was involved with some of the contract selling of food to the Union Army during the Civil War. Okay. So by 1863, at 23 years old, not having any further education, he had no high school degree, which was not unusual in that day. I'm not faulting him for that, but he had about 3 months of business education. He buys 3 acres of property along the shoreline of the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, and he and a partner start this little refinery business. At the time that he buys this refinery on these 3 acres, they had 37 employees. But here's the question. John D. Rockefeller brought to the table $4,000. It's between $4,000 and $5,000 in investment.
Where'd he get the money?
Question is, at 23 years old,
where'd he get it?
Where did he get it from? He said he scrimped and saved every dime that he had, and he was a meticulous record keeper. He tracked from the time he was 16 years old. He tracked every expenditure and everything coming in and going out in his life. Everything he bought, everything he spent, everything he earned. He tracked in a little ledger that he had. So he was that kind of fastidious sort of guy. But he claimed in his rags to riches story that he had $1,000 of his own, and he got another approximately $4,000. So that's why I said it's between $4,000 and $5,000 he brings to the table for this land purchase. But he says he borrowed the other money from his father.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you,
but
this
his father
is one of the
around.
Theories of the origin of John D. Rockefeller's fortune. And there's some competing theories on this. The Rockefeller Archives provides no evidence of anything in any direction. And some historians have asked whether that was deliberate. Did John D. Rockefeller not want anyone to know where he got the money from? But I'm going to just ask, after that little biography, that little microbiography on his father, do you think that someone who had provided an initial startup investment that paid off the way John D. Rockefeller's did would not have reappeared in his life and asked for money?
Yeah. Always mysterious money is always showing up. It did for Larry Ellison. It did for Oracle. It always mysteriously shows up where they have all kinds of investment money, Peter Thiel, PayPal. It's like just shows up, and usually it's coming from the people that are running things. So yeah, for sure.
So this little refinery that he bought, he and a partner bought, they had 3 acres of property. They had 37 employees, and they could refine about 30 barrels of crude per day.
Mm-hmm.
Give John D. Rockefeller 20 years, and he was refining 90% of all the oil in the entire world. That's a phenomenal rise to power, phenomenally fast. So I've given you the first theory on where he got his seed money from.
Mm-hmm.
The first theory is what he said himself during his life, that he scrimped and saved all his money that he earned as a $30 a month bookkeeper, and he kept all that and accumulated at 23 years old $1,000 to put into this, and borrowed the other $4,000 from his father.
Right. Okay.
So that's theory number one. Theory number two is that in his time as this fruit commission salesman, it is well known and well documented everywhere that the sales to the Union Army of commissions for food, clothing, ammunition, whatever they were selling to the Union Army was corrupt at best.
Yeah. Okay.
The Union Army was notorious for writing contracts and nothing was ever delivered, or not, we have a contract for you to send us 100 pounds of oranges, and they never arrived. They were never there in the first place. It was just a fraudulent contract anyway. Did John D. Rockefeller use that time? Was he engaging in some of that kind of business practice that gave him a side income? It was his kind of side hustle here. And he was able to accumulate money that way. And that was the springboard that introduced him to the railroad people, all of the people in the network that eventually he builds for himself.
I think I'm seeing a blueprint here, and the blueprint is for these people that run things and that get put in charge of things, and they're always funded. Their seed money is funded. When I mentioned Larry Ellison of Oracle, while this whole Iran fake thing is happening, is Oracle taking over Medicaid? Are they servicing Medicaid? Well, Oracle's always been a part of the CIA. He's always been a part of the CIA since he was young, and he got his seed money from them too, I do believe. So it's kind of interesting how government and these people that get this seed money merge and then try always to appear as if they are private, and they are not. So another front man, Larry Ellison's the front man. And so was our Medicaid sort of being done under another set of circumstances, because he came out and just said, on the heels of Charles saying digital ID. Now we have Oracle going, hey, you better be on your best behavior, because we're going to be recording everything, and we've got everything, and blah blah blah. So I just think these people start out and it's by design. It's by design. They have their money, and then people usually don't question where it comes from. Right?
Well, they don't. And I think these are kind of valuable questions to ask. If that is, and I'm not saying that the truth about John D. Rockefeller is some blend of all of this. Maybe he did get a few dollars from his father. Maybe he did save some money on his own. But it just seems like a phenomenally large sum of money for the day for him to have had that money so easily at such a young age without a track record of having anything from anybody else. And if you ask yourself that same question with Andrew Carnegie, with JP Morgan, with Cornelius Vanderbilt, all of those guys from the Gilded Age, there's this incredibly rapid rise of Andrew Carnegie was an immigrant from Ireland.
Right.
How did he get the money to start? And their stories never explore that. Their stories always say, oh yeah, they were tough and they worked hard, and suddenly they have these incredible corporate empires from literally almost nothing. Yeah,
for sure. And then a lot of the things they do are going to be they're going to be their name on it and government run too. So there's always that facet. Like, the reason I say that is because reviewing a story on Larry Ellison today, it was like Larry Ellison's cloud. So AI is running grok on Larry Ellison's cloud. It's like, no, it's the the government's, it's intelligence's cloud, but they have to put a face on it so you don't look at them. So it's just like the same thing with the Rockefellers too. A lot of what they did ended up being government stuff too, but they had the Rockefeller name on it, so it looked private, but it was a lot of government things being rolled out. They just couldn't do it in the United States, so they had to mask it too.
Well, there's another aspect of this that is kind of part of my wheelhouse, is that the archives portion, the Rockefeller archives don't document any of this stuff. And so was that done by design, or were the documents simply not there? And no one knows the answer to that question. And sometimes I think, and I have a background in archival management anyway, but if we say that the documents are just not there, do we remember that, especially in a corporate archive, corporate archives are notorious for protecting the corporate image of the people and the corporation that they are archiving. I had a personal experience about that. I was doing some research on yet another Gilded Age kind of guy in the town that I grew up in Ohio. And they have a vast corporate archive, but you can't get into it. They don't want anybody in there. And I was just like a grad student. I was looking for information for somebody I was working for. And I said, this archive will have that information. And I called them and I said, can I come down and would you help me find it? And no, we're not a public archive. We're not open to you. If you're not talking about what we want you to talk about, you're not going to get the information that we may or may not have. And we need to remember that that's true in every archive, whether we're talking about the National Archives or whether we're talking a corporate archive or we're talking just the local university archive. Every archive is going to have a perspective, and they're going to be protective of that perspective. And that's, we think, well, if the information was available, we would have some researcher would be in there looking for it. Not so.
No. In fact, even today, I think it's so obvious where these people get their money. And because now we have these corporations run by the CIA, and then they're like, yeah, I got my money from InQtel. And it's like, yeah, we all know InQtel is owned by the little spooks. So of course, yeah, we know, but I don't even think they hide it anymore. I don't even think they need to, because the people are so dumbed down. They don't even care. They don't even care.
But there is yet again a third theory on John D. Rockefeller.
Okay.
And I only bring it up. It's kind of a way out there theory that he was not the creator of wealth at all, but that he was the inheritor of technology and a consolidator of information that someone wanted him to have.
Okay. Well,
that someone at some point, and who those someones are is not.
Who knows? But yeah, I think pharmakia. I think all the pharmacy stuff came the same way. I think it was a little more downloaded.
Wait, before we're done with John D. Rockefeller, we're going to talk about pharmakia.
Okay.
Because he's a big mover in that particular arena. The Rockefeller Foundation funds a lot of things. So you have to step back here, and now let's talk about the kind of middle portion of John D. Rockefeller's life, where he borrows money from his father. He builds a partnership with a guy named Morris Clark, and their first year of operation, they made $450,000.
That's a lot. Sounds like it's almost like Elon. It reminds me of Elon. Elon started out with nothing, and then all of a sudden was in the millions for a stupid app that nobody wanted and nobody did anything with. So yeah, I could see that. I could see how they could make that kind of money, because, you got all these pretty dark people running things. So yeah, it happens today.
The first commercial oil well in the United States was drilled in Titusville, Pennsylvania, which is about 40 miles away from Cleveland. And by 1862, this guy named Samuel Andrews, who was a Brit, approached Rockefeller and Clark, who had already kind of formed this little partnership. So this is before they've bought their first piece of property. So Samuel Andrews, guys, goes to Rockefeller and Clark. How he even knew that they were interested in this is another question. But he insisted. Samuel Andrews was a chemist, and he convinced Rockefeller that the real money was not in wells, but the real money was in refining.
Yep.
Which is what Rockefeller eventually did do.
Standard Oil. Go ahead.
So that's 1862. Rockefeller and Morris are in contact with this Samuel Andrews guy. 1863, then that is when they invest in this first little oil refinery with their $4,000, $5,000 investment. It's called Kingsbury Run. 37 men paid $57 a month in salary, and they were producing about 30 barrels of crude a day. But Andrews, this chemist, was not satisfied with just production of crude. He was kind of a driven man in the same way that Rockefeller was, in a different way. Rockefeller was driven in business operations. Andrews, the chemist, was driven in the chemical part of the refinery. So Andrews was the first person to distill the kerosene from Titusville. He took the crude, and from the crude they distilled out kerosene.
Got it.
And he was able to develop, this Andrews guys was able to develop kerosene yields that were in excess of 75%. While other distillers were at 10 or 20%, Rockefeller's refineries were moving ahead at 75%, and they were producing a higher grade of kerosene.
Yeah. Okay.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. We'll just get to the end of this, because I'm wondering, so then he wanted to do pharma, right? That's what came out of that?
Here's the deal. When you're refining kerosene, you have byproducts left over.
Yeah.
You have phenols, you have there's a whole list of chemicals. And one of the pieces of genius that belongs to John D. Rockefeller is that he was relentless in looking at every single piece of the puzzle and how can we make this more efficient. So when other refineries in Cleveland at the same time are dumping their excess into the Cuyahoga River, and I grew up in Ohio, and if you don't know, Cuyahoga River had the reputation clear into the 70s for being a flammable river.
Yeah.
But this is as far back as the 1870s. If you lit a match, the Cuyahoga River would ignite because they were dumping so much of this stuff. Well, John D. Rockefeller says, wait, maybe there's a way to reuse and repurpose these things. So why am I throwing something away that I could make money on that too?
Right.
So he contacted I.G. Farben, the
little Nazis.
German. Well, they're not Nazis in 1870. Well, they're not officially Nazis in 1870, but they're a German
little
chemical
Satanists.
company.
Little Satanists. Okay, go ahead.
Maybe that. I can't speak to that, but Rockefeller said, okay, chemical boys, what can we do with this stuff? And what they came up with was the creation of synthetic pharmaceuticals out of petroleum waste.
Right. Yeah, we did a show, I think, on that last year. Like, just that's where your pharma came from, and then they were all aboard the pharma train. And I.G. Farben in World War II, I mean, they were out there doing experiments for pharma. So it was, I mean,
this is way
terrible.
Earlier than that.
Yeah, I'm just saying in the future,
Rockefeller is founding the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research.
Right. Yeah.
And what he does, there's in 1910, Rockefeller funds a thing called the Flexner Report. And this Flexner guy, who was he was a
horrifying. He's the one.
Yeah, he is horrifying.
He made up virus.
He was not a doctor himself, had never been a doctor. But what he did was he went and visited every medical school in all of the whole United States. He did a survey of what they were teaching, what they were doing, how they were doing it. And at that time, medicine was much more flexible than it is today. Medicine in 1900 had people who were working with herbal cures. They were talking about healthy lifestyles. They were talking about preventing health.
Right.
You know, we need to eat well. We need to sleep well. We need to blah, blah, blah.
Real medicine.
Homeopathy was a thing.
Yeah.
Not after the Flexner report.
No, it literally changed it. In fact, he made up virus. It's still invisible to this day. You have to mix it with bacteria in order to see it, which makes it bacteria. But he made up virus. So for the next 100+ years till now, that we would have an excuse as to why your immune system was bad, so that all the symptoms of your bad immune system could just be called a virus. Totally made up 100% by him.
Flexner, in his report published in 1910, he visited 155 medical schools, and he came up with, he says, anybody who's teaching homeopathy, naturopathy, any kind of approach that is not based on pharmaceuticals and intervention and surgery, you're not practicing medicine. And what they did, it almost immediately closed half the medical schools in the country.
It did. Yeah.
And then
Hopkins
the
training.
AMA gets messed up in this by saying, okay, we are the people who tell you who is a legitimate doctor or not.
Yeah.
And if you were bucking the system, if you were a doctor who said, well, I want to practice homeopathy with my patients, the AMA said, then you're not a doctor.
Yeah, you were screwed. Yep, for sure.
We're not going to give you a license to practice medicine, which is part of the whole argument about licensing. Why does the AMA get to decide that? But here's what's interesting, and like many elites, Rockefeller didn't. This is good for you, but not good for me. Here's the quote from John D. Rockefeller. I attribute my long life, he lived to be 97. I attribute my long life to the use of homeopathic remedies.
Oh, yeah. It's just like the elite don't vaccinate their kids. The same stuff they push on us. Yeah. Of course he was using homeopath. Of course. I don't doubt that at all, because they're pretty healthy. They don't get a whole lot of cancer in those families. Have you ever noticed that?
So homeopathic medical schools went from 22 institutions in 1900 to only 2 in 1923.
Right. Sadly.
So what does Rockefeller do with the millions and millions of dollars that he owned, that he earned through Standard Oil? By the way, why is it called Standard Oil? I thought this was fascinating. It was standard because he had standardized the practice of refining so that every gallon of kerosene produced had the same quality as every other one. And when he did that, the cost of kerosene went from 26 cents a gallon to only like 3 cents a gallon.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
And so that's why. So they said some of Rockefeller's genius is his ability to market well.
Yeah.
So when it's called Standard Oil, everybody knew what they were buying.
Yeah. And let me guess, he had invested in the kerosene market when he did it. Let's have a conversation about this, because this is a piece of the past that people don't realize. Before kerosene, how do you light your home after dark? How do you light anything after dark? Well, I would imagine wood or something like that.
Well, that's an option. You have a fire, you have a candle, or you have whale oil.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Those are the things, but they're very expensive, all of them. When kerosene becomes very cheap under Standard Oil, for the first time in history, poor people could afford to illuminate their homes inside at night. Right. You could stay up after dark and read a book or whatever. You could see after dark, but it's an economic thing. And it was completely contingent on the success of Standard Oil. Now, if you explore the rest of Standard Oil's story, they were exploiting all kinds of monopolistic practices to get that control of the market. And John D. Rockefeller eventually bought, there were 22 other refineries in Cleveland. He bought them all and then put them all out of business and said, okay, you're done. He took the equipment that he wanted to keep, took a couple of the executives that he liked, and unemployed the rest. Does it sound a little like AI data systems? You know, we're gonna take what we want from you. We're going to keep the few handful of people that we want, and the rest of you are unemployed.
Right.
That's the business model from then and now.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well,
it's
very interesting. Here's the Rockefeller formula.
Okay.
So everybody knows after today, you'll know how to get rich like Rockefeller. Number 1, control the resource, build the industry, then control education. This is how he got control of medicine. Control education, which he does. So Rockefeller, in essence, took over the medical schools. He's the funder of Johns Hopkins. The Rockefeller Foundation is the funder of many Harvard and Yale's medical schools. Control information. Then you control the health of the population. And when you have that, you control the future.
Amazing.
And that's exactly what we're looking at right now. Started with oil in 1864, but it's still going on. Every one of us has touched Rockefeller's impact even today. And what did he do? He built for himself. He builds this house in New York City that was he owned thousands of acres in New York City that he gated off, and he lived in this huge house all essentially by himself. He became very isolated as he got older. And I just wonder if it's the same is it the same with Bill Gates? Is it the same with all these rich guys? They're very isolated. They're not connected anymore to the people that their products are actually aimed at. They're living this totally alternative life that does not ever intersect with the rest of us. It's very strange.
The front men. Yeah, very, very true. In fact, the data centers, you mentioned the data centers, and I mentioned Larry Ellison as he was in the news today or yesterday. And the thing is with Larry Ellison, think about all the data that he owns. And they did it without any major building centers in every city. So they're able to store it. Technology is super little. So I think we're getting pretty scammed on the data centers, and I don't think they are data centers because I don't think they're necessary. A big spacious building in every city, but kind of crazy. The origins of these people, because you're right. When you do a deep dive, you could never find the money on how you can find it, but it's just never explained on how they start. Same with Bill Gates, same with Elon, same with Jeff Bezos and Amazon. That was all a construct. Elon's is a construct, all by government, those by government. But Rockefellers are very intertwined with government. And so, the players in the back are making sure that family had some cash to start out too.
Let me just give you a quick run through here of where the Rockefeller money is today. There's the Rockefeller Foundation, the University of Chicago, Rockefeller University, Johns Hopkins University,
awful,
Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in Texas, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the World Bank, and the Population Council. That's where his money went.
Eugenics. Yeah.
So I love this. This is another little quote. It wasn't about making money. It was about building a system so powerful and so intertwined that it could shape every aspect of human life for generations. And when did that vision start? 1863. We're not dealing with something that just popped up in the last 5-6 years.
No,
this is not plans. After COVID, everything went crazy. This is a system that was created and set on a foundation in
And executed.
1863.
Yeah. Yeah. Late 1800s and executed. I mean, it's long laid plans for sure. And now where do we stand? We end up with digital ID that tracks your employment history, your benefits, your healthcare records, your physical movement, all within a single government accessible identity.
Well, to comment a little bit about King Charles saying that,
mm-hmm.
he is given those papers by the prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's nothing in that speech. If you listen to the speech that Charles just gave in front of Parliament, there's nothing in that speech that Charles himself hasn't been backing for many years.
Exactly. Yeah, true. Mm-hmm.
Whether Keir Starmer gave it to him last week and said, here, read this, it doesn't matter because the king is in favor of those things himself. It wasn't a hardship for him to read that.
Oh, no.
It wasn't like he was choking it out.
No, he hides behind it, like calls it duty and loyalty. It's like as if he's hard at work serving, and it's
yet,
so funny.
What do we know about the monarch of Britain?
Oh, good hell.
They don't need ID at all.
No.
Do you think
Scandalous
King
little
Charles
bunch.
is going to have a digital ID platform?
Nope.
I think not. I don't think any of them will.
No.
So
what's the solution?
Gosh.
I know. What's the solution?
I know we're up against a colossus. We really are. And I think that's why I'm really intrigued by this whole notion. If you look at the three pathways that Rockefeller may have gotten his money, was he selected? Was the money his? Was the money the result of corruption? And I kind of am laying this hand like saying it's all of those things.
Sure.
All of those things were at play. I have no doubt he invested some of his own money towards this. But I also have no doubt that there were other players that remained in the shadows that propelled him. They looked at him and said, he's got the right personality to be the guy that we want and we need.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. By the way, everybody, just wanting to make sure, if you didn't see yesterday's show, I just want to make sure everybody got to the site, katetalks.myshopify.com, and get the 2 ebooks now. So you got to get, there's more ebooks, but I did one on AI and where does the construct of AI go? Why are we doing AI right now? And it's probably not what most people are talking about. So go get the ebook and then also the book on how to solve cancer naturally and no chemo and what to do and what not to do. So go to katetalks.myshopify.com and it's on the ticker on the screen as well. And I'm telling you, so worth getting these bits of information, because when you can finally kind of see everything laid out, which is kind of like what you just did, Melissa, kind of lay out the story, it's just so much easier to see what we're dealing with than being kind of wrapped up into the drama of the soap opera of it, So
I think the soap opera has been running for a lot longer than we think.
For sure.
We think, because I think American society right now is very kind of myopic. We think that we're the only people that have had this struggle. No, this has been going for a long time. A long time.
Yeah, let me long time. So yes,
and
sure.
We can have another conversation about how the Civil War really reshaped the American economy, that allowed guys like Carnegie and Vanderbilt and JP Morgan to do what they did eventually.
True.
But if they weren't doing it, we wouldn't. I mean, it's just a cascade of interlocking things. If there hadn't been a JP Morgan and a John D. Rockefeller, would there have been a Federal Reserve? I don't think so. So those guys had to exist first. So if there is a whoever that calls the shots, they were very clever in how they did it. And the way in which they pulled the threads that built an economy that could be exploited in this kind of way.
Sometimes I'm going to ask the audience this. So chime in and you can comment on YouTube and you can text in. Who do you think are front men? because I think they're the useless eaters. I mean, the front men that are willing to do all of this with their name on it, and I think the Rockefellers are one. I don't know if people really look at them like that, but I actually think that's what they are. I think they're a family that is it's like you hire the people to you have a Bill Gates or a Zuckerberg or an Elon or a Bezos, and they do the bidding, right? So they're the little hatchet guys. They go out and they're the ones that they're the ones that promote. They're in the news every day. That's all we ever hear about and discuss, because we never discuss the people that are behind them. And so I think the Rockefellers are one. Have you ever looked at the Rockefellers like that?
What, as the front men?
As a front man.
I think they are. That's what I'm saying. I think it's very intriguing. Where did they get their seed money from?
Exactly.
And I think it's the same place that Bill Gates got his seed money from. And I think it's the same place.
You're right.
That all these guys get their seed money from. And by saying that, I don't mean the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where does the CIA get their money from?
Mm-hmm.
There's forces behind forces behind forces. And I don't think we ever really know the names of the real dark money.
Yeah. Sadly, yes, and it's so funny because you can go track all of this like you just did, and really sort of look at it, and there's just so many holes in the story, and yet people still get called conspiracy theorists for talking about it. It's always going to amaze me that you'd have to pretty much be blind as a bat now, unless to believe anything that's put out there. As far as narratives go, I just don't understand how people can buy into those. But these families, like you said, they've been hard at work for a long time. And it seems to me that when you see a front man, the family is usually always tied up into this group. So they always have huge family ties, they go all the way back. Have you noticed that?
They go back to a certain place, and then there's nothing beyond that. Like John D. Rockefeller, like I said, in 1858, there is no Rockefeller before that.
Or was it a name change?
I don't know. If I did it, I have another one. There's another deep dive to be done on the Rothschilds. That's not even their name.
Mm-hmm.
They changed their name in like the 1700s. So where did they come from? Where did they get their phenomenal wealth from?
Yeah.
All these people. And why don't we ever ask that question of them?
I don't know. Is this why Hollywood always changes their names? I mean, they're curious people that always seem to have a name change because the other name sounds more magnificent. I know that's what the story that we're sold on, but I've always wondered about that. It's almost like a ritual. It's almost like a strange ritual of, you're going to change your name and be part of the club now. I don't know. It just seems that way to me. It's very strange.
I don't know.
Either.
I don't know. I honestly don't because I'm not wired that way. I don't think you're wired that way.
No. Yeah.
But I don't think Hollywood, I don't think those people are the front men either. I think they are front men also.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, what does it take to be a front man? What is the bargain that you have made? And we're talking about satanic stuff. What is the devil's bargain that you make for that kind of wealth? I think it's not a nice bargain that you make, but I think generational wealth of that level, the Rockefeller money genuinely is probably beyond our ability to comprehend. He was phenomenally wealthy. Like I said, just a couple of years in, he's earning $450,000 in the 1870s.
Right. A lot of these people stem from Germany and Hungary and that region where we have some mysteriously named people, and we have some, just some it's a very interesting region over there, and they all seem to come from these places. Have you noticed that over there?
I'm getting ready to do a deep dive on Tartaria. You heard about that one? I can't even talk about it yet, but
okay.
Gonna have to look at that one because there's a whole conspiracy, and truly a conspiracy theory about that, which is kind of that we're working toward that part of the globe. Was there a civilization there, and are they part of who the drivers of some of this stuff is? It's interesting.
Hidden history, I would imagine that we do. Hidden technology, yes, because I've done shows on it, and we've had all kinds of technology and that's hidden from us. And we didn't go from caveman to smartest guy in the world, because I actually think we have a pretty stupid population. I hate to say that, but we
here's
really
here's
do.
another question that I have.
We're really dumbed down. Yeah.
And I have been seeing this in different places and wonder if it's legit myself. Are the elites really afraid that people are waking up and that their time is limited? They're pushing very hard right now to get what they want in place. And I think in order to be an elite, you have to agree with the system. You have to say what they want you to say, do what they want you to do.
Yeah.
And so, if the Rockefeller money is no longer, and I'm not sure that it is going to last forever. If Bill Gates is no longer, if some of these players begin to get serious pushback from people, what are they really afraid, and what will they do when they're that afraid? Because I think these people they're the middle management. What happens to middle management in the layoff?
Yeah, true.
Their heads may roll while the people who are really pulling the strings are safe behind, so far removed from it that we wouldn't even know who they were.
Well,
that's grim.
It's curious. Sorry. I know. And here we are on the heels of digital ID, and people should ask themselves why we have that, because, how are they selling that to us? Because, you have a passport, you have all kinds of ID. Why this additional layer? Why the real ID? You got all these different things going on right now, and none of that is stopping. So when I look at claims that anyone is getting rid of the deep state, you just have to laugh, because it's only getting bigger and stronger, and it's only moving forward. So, it's not being diminished in any way. And we have enough drama going on that people aren't really talking about it, because there's too much other drama going on between personalities. And so people they just don't talk about it. And yeah,
somebody on the comment stream on YouTube just pointed out, how about the Kennedy bloodline? And by the way, the Kennedys also owe their fortune to the same time period.
Yeah.
Joseph Kennedy, a little bit later, he makes his money in bootlegging liquor. So,
he was so part of the club too, and people made it sound like the Kennedys were kind of these outsiders, and you just have to laugh because he worked in Hollywood. I mean, it was just like it was just so obvious, that he was one of the players. You can't your son can't be president unless you're a player, unless these things are going on. So part of the club for sure. Otherwise, people don't get that opportunity. So,
well, I don't know. If you believe that everything is, if all politicians are selected, not elected, how do we push back? How do we?
Well, it's not through government.
How do we make a difference?
It's not through government. Government's done. I think government's cooked. And I hate saying that because people think that I've lost all hope, but I think we're cooked on that front. So we have to think outside the box a little bit and get back to the people and understand that a more awake populace is going to band together to not comply with all this garbage. And now somebody was asking earlier on YouTube, what's the solution? Well, one of them is going to be, and this isn't going to be easy either, is I said yesterday, in order to jump online, in order to use ChatGPT, which we're all getting used to because they're creating a dependency with it, you're going to have to be pretty compliant to everything. So it's going to be tiered, I would imagine, and access will be tiered. So if that's the case, life's going to get really uncomfortable. Are you okay with that? Are we okay with that? Not only okay, but can you do it? That's going to be the bigger question, because it's going to take so much sacrifice to not give in. And I think that's going to be our test. I think it's going to be a huge, huge test for us.
Well, I'll tell you.
Because there will be communities that don't give in. I do.
There are things that are interesting happening in the world, but you have to kind of dig to find them. Burkina Faso, the little country of Burkina Faso, just kicked Bill Gates out of the country and said, we don't want to be your lab rats. Yes. And is encouraging other African nations to do the same.
Good. He's killed off enough people.
There's a lot about Burkina Faso that I don't agree with, but I think that's a hopeful sign. And I think we need to see that kind of rebellion around the world where people are saying, yeah, not on my watch and not in my backyard. Go away. Be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I just see people becoming very weary and tired. And I think now is the time to really kind of gird up our loins, if you will, and understand.
Gird up your loins.
This is going to be a David and Goliath fight.
Yes, it is. I don't think we're ready for that. I think we want things to be a little too easy, a little too simple, because, people, they really gravitated toward the Constitutional Convention as an answer. And so everyone on our right was selling that as an answer, and I wasn't. And people were furious with me, I won't say who, for not selling that as an answer. And it was like that people wanted to go, oh, we could fix all of this corruption in a day, and now I'll go back to not paying attention again. And I was like, that's not how it works. We're not invested in our own liberty. We don't keep track of these people. We don't keep track of their careers. We don't watch them. They get in. They're a hot mess. They're terrible, and they do whatever the parties want, and we don't even keep track of them. So everybody just gets interested to go get their sticker to do the vote, but they don't study these people, so they just go off the poster. And so that's where our world of hurt comes from right now, and that's why I don't know how people will react. Look at people got a shot to go on a cruise. I mean, people got a shot to go to a game at a stadium. We're not the best and brightest. And so
they did it to get a donut.
And a lap dance in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't make this up.
We're the stupidest people ever.
We are.
And I don't mean that sounds terrible.
It does sound terrible, but
when I say we're the stupidest people, what I mean by that is we fall victim to the same marketing strategies over and over again. And one would think that after some of this, we would get smarter. But I don't know. I think sometimes we're just teaching the monster what we believe and how easy it is to convince us.
Yeah, sadly.
I remember being really controversial at the beginning of COVID for saying I was going to wait to see how the vaccine worked out.
Yeah.
And people were like, no, you have to take it now. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to wait for 6 months and see how that goes. And then at the end of that 6 months, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to wait a while longer. And here we are.
Yeah. I mean, it's that bad. So I think people will more or less adhere to the compliance because they don't want to not go on vacation. They don't want to not be able to get on the internet. They want to enjoy everything just like they always have. And so I think it's going to get tough. That's the tough part, but people could do it. It's just the tough part. So,
well, dial it back and ask yourself, what did those doctors do when they were threatened by the AMA with losing their license?
Yes.
And you understand why they did that. I understand why any doctor is concerned about their livelihood when they're being threatened. How do you push back against a threat? Those are questions I think we're going to have to start to talk about on a cultural level. How do we handle this? How do we push back against the lawmakers who think that we're not important enough to consult before they decide to give the AI data centers all kinds of stuff?
Well, I think right now people are getting pretty pissed off because they realize, I think they just finally clued in, if you will, to the fact that all these decisions are made way before public comment. So whenever they have public comment, people act like they actually have a say, and we don't have a say in any of it. So even a off ramp. So I don't understand. It took us a long time to get there, to finally realize that their public comment was for show. But
it's still for show.
It's still for show. It always is for show.
But like I said, we've talked about this a little bit. There are places where people have said, okay, little town council, you just did that to us without our public comment. We're going to vote all of you out now. And we need to do more of that. More of that. Even if you think your vote doesn't matter, that's the vote that does matter, because those little local elections are much harder to manipulate.
So true. Well, I thank you. I thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. And we just really need to look around us and really kind of nail down who's doing the bidding of the loss of liberty that we get. So the loss of liberty, the intrusion in our lives, the heavy-handed government, who's all behind that, and who's behind the brainwashing and everything else.
I'll tell you a secret about at least how I think, like anybody needs to know this, but
Mm-hmm.
when I begin to feel like the current headlines are so stressful, I can't deal with it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's always time to go back and look at where we have been,
Mm-hmm.
because there's wisdom to be found in looking at where we've been that brought us to this place.
Right.
And looking at John D. Rockefeller may not be the most glamorous topic, but it's really important to understand and to know what are the right questions to be looking at. Where did Bill Gates get his money? Where did Larry Ellison get his money? Where did Elon Musk get his money from? These guys are not, and you get the same story about all of them. They're just geniuses. That's where.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on. We've got Susan on, and appreciate it. Thanks, Melissa. And Susan.
Talk to you later.
Yeah, you betcha. Susan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Kate.
Hi
I'm doing
there.
great.
Good. Before we start, I just wanted to mention, go get some Cardio Miracle. I took 2 doses today. I take it every day. And so now I'm drinking water. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that one of my friends who's in the news a lot, she came out and she goes, this is the product I've been taking the longest because I love it that much. And I was like, me too. I like this product. So I just want to say, please go get cardiomiracle.com/Kate. You're going to feel a lot better. And right now, what I've noticed is people over the age of like, say, 30 and 40 are just feeling in the dumps. Like they're just not feeling good. And it can be a lot of things, but I know that's going to help. So make sure that you go get it. It's a really solid product, and I get sent a lot of products. This is the one though that has it all, and I love it. My husband loves it too. My family loves it. So cardiomiracle.com/Kate. Just go check it out because you can kind of see the ingredients and you can see what's in it. And it's got 20 times the fruits and vegetables of any product out there. And that's why I wanted to make sure and take it also because of the, the wonderful things in it that help your oxygen in your system. So cardiomiracle.com/Kate. Also go get the ebooks. Okay. The AI ebook that just came out. And by the way, I have organ donation one coming out this week as well. And then of course the cancer one. And please get the cancer one too, because the cancer one is all about how to solve it. And you don't have to go through thousands of hours of research. We've saved you that. And you can actually go and look at what works, what doesn't. So it's kind of like the Cliff Notes. So it's 14 pages, but it's a Cliff Notes, solid info. And that Don't Panic cancer book is at katetalks.myshopify.com. Okay, Susan, what do we got?
Oh, wow. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about gas prices, in part because I came across this suggestion from City Journal, and it was a simple policy to reduce food prices. And I thought, well, what could be a simple policy? And it turns out that 20 million acres of cropland are devoted to corn ethanol production. And that ethanol is what we put in our gas tanks. And they said this policy change to get rid of that would be a huge game changer, because so much it would free up land for construction or conservation, improve the environment, cut greenhouse gas emissions,
but
and
who
reduce
cares?
fuel costs. And I didn't realize that gas with ethanol produces more smog, which is why it's 10% during the year, but during the colder months, but they go off of that policy during the summer. Why? Because of the smog. It produces a lot of smog in and of itself. And so it's called the Environmental Protection Agency's Renewable Fuel Standard, otherwise known as RFS. And it's 20 years old, and it forces refiners to blend plant-based biofuels into nearly every gallon of gasoline and diesel sold in the United States. And it's just, I didn't realize how toxic it was. And then the big joke of it is, and I didn't realize this, is that that you would think, oh, you have to add 10% ethanol. That means we have 10% more fuel available to us. No, that math doesn't work, because it takes so much fuel to produce the ethanol and grow the corn that you're left with a tiny fraction of that 10% in additional fuel for consumers. It's absurd. And somebody wrote and said, the purpose of a system is what it does. In other words, this is a big, they call it liquid pork, because of all the people who get paid off in the process, all the big donors that get paid off. It says last year alone, the group said ethanol refiners purchased 23 billion in American corn. On top of this, nearly half the soybean oil produced in the US gets converted into biodiesel. Combined, the ethanol and biodiesel industries had revenues of $50 billion in 2024. And the reason this actually raises grocery prices, I'm thinking grocery prices, yes, because so many of our groceries are made with corn and processed foods, right? But it's an invisible tax on drivers. And they, you know, this was all supposed to be for us, and look how much the government loves us. They're helping us out. It turns out this has been a huge scam from day one. It's you know, greasing the palms of all the people that touch it. And it does not make the air cleaner. In fact, they said it produces overall, the whole process plus what you burn in your car, 25% more carbon than what regular gasoline would just produce.
It reminds me of the batteries. they all want electric cars. And I'm thinking, do you know how all these things work? Yeah, it reminds me of the same thing. It's like, it's ridiculous what people will buy into. They'll go with their cloth bag, like stooges, you know, here's my cloth bag. Can I have all those plastic items, please, wrapped in plastic and put in my cloth bag because I'm saving the environment? Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Yep. And so,
wow,
you know, that's when you're looking at your gas pump every week, and it's reminding you that there's 10% biodiesel filtered into that.
Yes.
You can understand that this was a big congressional scheme to, because these are the heavy lifters. It's why the presidential candidates start in Iowa. Right? Where is the big kickoff?
Interesting.
Iowa.
I didn't think of it Iowa like that, but
it's a big wink to them. Like, we know how important you are. We know, you know, the lobbyists and the donations. But it says also ethanol contains 33% less energy than gasoline by volume. That means that if a car gets 30 miles per gallon, and it will be able to drive only 20 miles on a gallon of ethanol. So if it was pure ethanol, so you're dropping, if you drop the ethanol requirement, it would not only bring down the price of fuel, it would significantly reduce the cost of driving,
right? And
consequently, the cost of many groceries. And so I thought, well, here is somebody proposing something that could actually work. But they said the addiction to this money is so strong that it is unlikely that it would ever go down without a major fight. And that the demonization of whoever tried to do it would be, you know, and so it would take a lot. But we don't have a free food market. We don't have a free fuel market. It's manipulated by these processes. Yeah. So anyway, something to think about anytime you think they're looking out for you.
Oh boy, understatement of the century.
Absolutely. So the other thing
I did want to mention though,
I came across an article called
Susan, I did want to mention that, you know, the big article today is most expensive summer ever. Did you see that?
Oh, ever.
Yeah. Like, yeah, they usually go back like 20 years, but yeah, I mean,
world history ever, or
yeah. I mean, the economy sucks. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I'm just like, these headlines, it's like for gas, what they're talking about is gas. Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, affordability. So that's been becoming the key word of the Democrat Party, like for the first time. And it's absurd. Like, rents in New York City, the hub of liberalism, is like on average $5,000 a month. And that's for a small unit. I was listening to somebody talking about that. So, you know, this affordability, we want affordability, but we'll import 20 million people and hope that makes things more affordable. No, that makes everything go up because there's more demand. Anyway, yes, I totally believe that. So I came across this article, Cognitive Warfare 2026. There's an update. NATO's chief science report as Sentinel calls for Operation Readiness. I'm like, there was a chief science report. So this was an overview of that report, but I went and found NATO's Cognitive warfare chief science research report. I'm like, wow. So they are updating their game. They are kicking their game up many notches because now they have AI to help them. So, there's all of this concern about surveillance, and it doesn't exactly say what the surveillance is for per se. And then you realize, oh, we know about the algorithms and the surveillance, but then let's just talk about cognitive warfare. And most people, I mean, even my family members who know me, and I bring up cognitive warfare, and they act like it's the first time they've ever heard it. This is not a concept that is really penetrating into people's consciousness, but needs to, right? People are surveilling us for a reason. So the cognitive warfare, first of all, I found a group that does it they run scenarios for a living to help the military, it said, and civilians. There's an article called Cognitive Warfare, the New Battlefield, Exploiting Our Brains. And what you have, it's propaganda and misinformation. We've dealt with that for a long time. It says it encompasses operations aims at corrupting the adversary's thought processes and altering their decision-making capacity using a scientific approach. So when you consider the number of young women who now consider OnlyFans a legitimate career option, and then you see, I don't know if you've seen some of the reports about what Sydney Sweeney has been doing on Euphoria and how shocked the fans are. But she has essentially, her character has set up an OnlyFans account and is going through all this degradation of a young woman, like all the ways. And they talked to the showrunner and they said, what is up with this? And they go, well, this is just the world we live in. This is just the pornification of our society. So we're just reflecting that. And I thought, here you take one of the most popular actresses in our day and age, and you normalize this. So here's the other thing it does. This is cognitive warfare. It affects cognitive capacities of individuals through the use of technology, which influences attention and reaction and cognitive structures in the long run, changes the brain. And it says to deal with this, we need to physically protect people in strategic situations and promote the sensible use of digital technology, which they said is really out of, that's long gone. Getting people to use it reasonably, unless you create a personal disconnect, is very difficult. So cognitive warfare as an expression only popped up in the vernacular in 2017 when American generals started using it. But really, the concept is dual. It's cognitive dominance and cognitive superiority. So when we're talking about data centers, and they're saying these are data centers just to produce data, process data. And then we go, oh, it's for surveillance. We should be talking cognitive warfare. And understanding that is, that's going to be what we're up against. It says, so it's neuroscience, linguistics, psychology, analytical philosophy, and the digital science, including AI. They said it's possible to precisely target the cognitive processes themselves and thus directly modify the opponent's thought processes. And so this NATO report that's on the bigger report, the summary, says it's the battle space is our mind. The battle space becomes continuous, operating non-kinetically. In other words, we're not feeling a physical force, right? Below threshold of armed conflict. So they don't want you to have a rise up and react. So this whole situation in Utah where people are rising up to react
for the data center,
they didn't necessarily want to create that. And I also believe the reaction to COVID and COVID shots was more than they anticipated. It was they wanted it to be a sub reaction, kind of when you give kids vaccinations and they get a rash, but then it goes away and they go, see, it's not that bad. That's the kind of reaction they wanted. A little rash, a little fever, and then it goes away.
Acceptance.
They wanted a little social
Reluctant
fever,
acceptance.
and then it was supposed to go away.
Yeah.
But I think things are ramping up. It says, so the measure of effectiveness shifts from short-term message penetration, getting the messages across, to durable changes in cognitive pattern and so behavioral disposition. And when it says behavioral disposition, this is exactly what it means. Risk perception, threat appraisal, civic cohesion, and willingness to support military action. Willingness to support military action. And so that is a cognitive warfare goal, a willingness to support military action. If you think back to what happened in Gaza and what happened on October 7th, a willingness to support military action. Really quite fascinating. I'm not saying that is directly, but at the biological level, and this is what NATO is putting out, it targets the nervous system as the focal substrate of thought, emotion, and behavior. So it's targeting our nervous systems. It's assessing our nervous systems, targeting our nervous systems, targeting our mental states, targeting our decision. Again, they need more data for this to become more and more and more effective. Cognitive warfare doesn't make sense if you were going to just be using all of that data to influence people to say, buy more jeans or, buy a certain type of soda. That's not what this is for. It's to sway entire populations. The psychological level, and they said it's for framing emotions and the patterns of thought, beliefs, and judgment. So changing our beliefs, influencing our judgments. Again, we saw people who reacted to the COVID vaccine by wanting to take it, and then by turning against anybody who wasn't taking it. That's based on judgment. That's based on a sub-level feeling of what is right. It gives you a moral justification. Where did that come from? I assumed that a lot of people were just psychologically predisposed to that. But what if that was true and it was also being entrained through these psychological warfare processes in people who would normally have just a rational judgment, right? And it says it also involves altering arousal states and attention gating, keeping you from noticing certain things, focusing you on other certain things.
There are a lot of people in the audience right now that went, what did she say? Sorry. Go ahead.
Pay attention.
Wait, what?
Right here. But here's the part
Arousal?
that just broke my heart and practically made me physically ill. So cognitive warfare is about manipulating, this is in the report, manipulating social cohesion. Now, if you go to church, it's about becoming one, becoming more peaceful, Christ-like, kinder, right? This is the overarching for influencing shared narratives, belief, institutional legitimacy, public views, values, and activities. So the goal is to fracture cohesion,
what in the hell is that?
weaponize
There's just a whole lot of words.
and create
what?
chaos.
Oh,
that's the goal.
Okay. What is fracture cohesion? What?
Fracture cohesion. In other words, if you have, say, a group of girls and they've all been good friends, and somebody says, let's blow up this little group, you start spreading a rumor. You fracture the cohesiveness of the group. So you can fracture. So what I anticipate is going to happen is, there's a group that's forming to oppose the data centers. There's going to be an introduction of either memes, narratives, rumors to fracture the cohesion of that resistance. And they say in cognitive warfare, that's what you're trying to do, turn group parts against each other, which is what Congress and the politicians have been successful at doing with us, right? Turning us against each other, making us believe that we have less in common with each other than we do with billionaires in Congress. So this is an intention of cognitive warfare, and it requires data to do this. It says these levels are not mutually exclusive, but can and should be regarded as complementary, reinforcing domains and dimensions of vulnerability. So they're like, where's a person vulnerable? They're vulnerable in their biological and physical makeup. They're vulnerable in their mental states, in their volatility. They're vulnerable in their social states and in their social communities. It's where the adversaries can gain a toehold. And so then it becomes, well, I can see how if you're trying to break up an ISIS group or the Iranian Republican Guard or whatever, but if they are turning this on us, then isn't that problematic? Yes, but we know that this is the sub-level of what they're doing. We don't talk enough about this, and this should be on the tip of our tongue all the time. Like, this is what's happening. So when you see how well laid out it is, they said, so it's utilizing bottom up, middle out, top down. Utilizing bottom up is the biological targeting to incur psychological and social effects, the middle out to evoke both biological responses and social manifestations, and top down social level engagements to produce both psychobiologic and biopsychological effects. They have this so well mapped out that is how they see us, as a battlefield, and either somebody who is with them or somebody who is against them. And it's very interesting, I find, when I hear President Trump and people who have come up against him, who were friends of his, but then who had a different opinion, now they are the enemy, right? You are with me, you are against me, because this is all about warfare.
Yeah, and we're the useless bottom eaters. So we're the useless bottom eaters on the battlefield. Did that whatever it is, what is it called? A summary or NATO put this out?
That's the summary. And the report is called Cognitive Warfare, NATO Chief Science Research Report.
You know, it's funny because I was reviewing some things at the beginning of the week, and it was more about the direct energy kinds of weapons when they grabbed Maduro, what kind of weapons they were using. Yes. And that came out. And so I don't know. I don't think we'll ever see a paper on that, but both are a reality. You know what I mean? And the way that by the way, has anyone heard about Maduro and that story?
Oh,
no, not since January.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just, I told somebody that he was probably in a hotel room somewhere. It was just, anyway, I think there was a lot of show to it, but at the same time, I just want to say they have a lot of weapons, and they're not going to showcase probably the direct energy weapons that they can use against a crowd. I think they've tested that a few times, even at a concert a couple of years ago. But I do find it compelling that they'll even put this out there, because they're letting people know that this is all about brainwashing. It's all about influence. It's all about behavioral management, modification. I mean, it's just amazing to me that they'll admit this,
Yeah, well, and that they have mapped out our vulnerabilities, mapped out our tendencies. I remember Chase Hughes, who was in military intelligence for 20 plus years. He said, notice on your feeds, on the algorithm often will put a cute animal video, and that you would go, "Aw," and then a sales video. And that's intentional, that they know that drives more clicks on whatever they're trying to sell you if they put a little animal video, because your defenses are lowered, right? And they have figured out our vulnerabilities. They've mapped them to exploit them. And you say, well, this NATO thing is supposed to be like what the Russians could do to us, or the Chinese could do to us. Okay, but the people who are doing the scenario say it's for military and civilian.
Mm-hmm.
So we know all the Palantirs and all of these are in the business together. And when you read some of this, it covers operations at distorting, preventing, or annihilating the adversary's thought process. So you're talking about those weapons. Those physical weapons are the aim at the biological level, situational awareness, and decision-making capacity. And they said it's primarily digital, but they do know, like we were talking about in past episodes about Havana syndrome, which they think a radiation weapon was aimed at diplomats elsewhere, that they became confused and were vomiting and the disruption. And they could just, why not just kill people? Because disabled people or people who are just incapacitated create more chaos in a situation because other people have to take care of them, right?
Yeah.
So this is the chaos, as a mother, you try to build cohesion. You're trying to be a peacemaker. Blessed are the peacemakers. This is not what these people are doing. And they say, well, we're just counteracting. We're just raising awareness to counteract. No, this is an actual strategy.
Well, it's blessed be the peacemakers, not blessed be the pushovers. I mean, people sort of confuse it with,
well, healthy boundaries is part of being peaceful. You have a boundary, I have a boundary. Now we can be at peace,
right?
Because we have an agreement, right? And so often getting to healthy boundaries is not easy because of the violation, right? This is such a violation. Nobody voted for this. How did we end up? And you could say, well, it's consumers. Who's the biggest consumer of this? The military. And you could say, well, is it advertisers? The laws are so weak. We're in the virginal stage of the laws that would restrict this. And what's the motivation for our Congress critters to do anything about this? What motivation do they have to protect us? I don't see that they have any motivation to protect us from this.
Pretty much bought and sold when you're there. So I don't think the motivation is there. They don't want to lose their spot. And if they can stay in 2 terms, they've got retirement. So I don't think there's any motivation to do anything, actually. I think it's a lot of talk. It's always a lot of talk, but not necessarily. Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Anything
but, when I was reading this and I was listening to
Mm-hmm.
the arguments about the data center and it's just been shoved down our throats and it's, going to take up resources. We don't know what change it's going to affect. I have not read one article, and I've probably read 100 that has talked about cognitive warfare capacities with more data. Not one. This is below the level of public discourse right now, which is why I wanted to bring it up. It should be included. How is this going to be used against us for manipulation purposes and not just surveillance? People are saying, I think it was the guy, what's his name? The Canadian guy involved in the data center, Kevin. Who said, well, I don't care if my face is seen. I'm not doing anything wrong. Right.
Yeah. Said every good little communist. Yeah.
Absolutely. But now we know that we can still be manipulated. We don't have to be doing anything wrong. In fact, they would prefer us not doing anything wrong. Just be normal, go about your business and think you are making your own free will choices when all the while it's manipulation.
Yeah.
So,
well, the data centers could face, I mean, what city was it? I can't remember the city that sued and ended the plans for the data center because they were using the Chinese parts. You can't use the Chinese parts because of the NDAA, Section 5949.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was in Alabama.
If they use certain Chinese manufactured electric parts, products, or services, they can be sued and they cannot put a data center there. And by the way, data centers don't need clean water. So why are they telling us that? That's why I'm saying I think they're just a total lie. I think everything about them is a lie. But yes, I thought that was kind of interesting about being sued for Chinese parts.
Yes, and that we don't make the parts here in the US. So what are they going to do in the meantime? The other thing is, I read the data center also, they say, well, we have a right to the water because we bought the property and we bought the water rights. And now they're trying to buy up a second water rights. And that, I think part of the problem is you see the black cube, right? It's like, what does the black cube represent? And people know this is just the tip of the iceberg, what they're being told. And that's what really frightens people. Tip of the iceberg. Pretty soon they have some meltdown and they say, well, we just have to evacuate people within a 100-mile radius. And why wouldn't that be the case? We've known that's happened with other things. So
does everyone realize like how many articles are in the news this week for cities being warned that you won't have enough water and utilities because of the data centers? So I think the lie is for that reason. They're gonna pretend that they're using all that water, and they're gonna pretend they're using all those utilities, because it creates shortages, it creates panic, and it creates fear. So I just wanted people to notice, because, and I think I'm pretty sure most of you guys already are noticing that, but lots of articles, whenever the media is in on something, I'm always questioning it. Whenever that's all they can talk about. And right now, the articles on MSN, the top articles are 50,000 in the city are told they won't have enough water this summer, and things
Lake
like that.
Tahoe residents face power loss.
Yeah.
Or that was actually like, sorry, I didn't mean to, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that it's kind of interesting that people aren't questioning it more, because we've been lied to so many times now that when you question all the media being on board one single story, when you question the fact that the headlines are fear-based, and I'm not saying they couldn't happen, I'm just saying the way that they're manipulating this to us. So people should probably question what these buildings are for, what happens under the ground, what are they doing underneath, and really what are they for? Because they're not for data. We already have that stored, and it doesn't take that much space. So people, I don't know, and I don't know. I'm just shocked that people are. I think, well, I'll tell you this. I think people are starting to clue in to the fact that the government wants them there, and that there might be something going on, only when they realize that their public comment doesn't matter. Like the public comment, I mean, they just do it for show, and it was already done. It's done a few years ago. So I just, maybe that'll wake some people up. I don't know.
So it's so interesting that you have, yes, wall-to-wall coverage, Los Angeles Times, but it's all over California and mainstream news, that a surge in Nevada data center construction threatens the electricity supply for 49,000 Californians, and that would be in Lake Tahoe. And so there's all these protests there, but a Nevada energy executive says data centers did not influence this decision. And so they're saying, well, is he telling the truth? Now you don't know who to trust, right? It's on the California side of Lake Tahoe, mostly South Lake Tahoe. The surge in construction of data centers in Nevada is prompting the Nevada utility that supplies 75% of Californians to cut them off next year. They have been told, you have to, this is true, you have to find a different source of electricity in 2027. And they're saying, well, it's the data center, and other people are saying, no, it's not. So water data centers, electricity data center, you're right. What is this really about?
What if the whole
they're
thing,
denying that?
What if the entire thing is a lie? And they're doing it so that all you're doing is causing panic. You're causing us to not look at what's happening to us, because we're all panicked, because everyone's trying to figure out how to have electricity and water, things that you have to have to survive. So, and people don't dig down anymore like we did for centuries. They're taught lies. They're taught that water only comes from snowpack and rainfall in our education system in the last 100 years. And so no one knows to dig for water. And so we're that stupid. And so we have plenty underfoot. So it's crazy to me, because what if this whole thing is a lie to keep people? It's kind of like the race baiting. It's like it just keeps people like
away
transfixed
from
on something else that is, because you'll start to hear, people will probably start to come out and be like, I don't have any electricity. People start panicking, but they're not looking at what the deep state does. They're not looking at what's really going on and what infrastructure is being built here, to further the NSA, to further all those things. And so maybe this is to keep us busy for a while.
Yeah, I mean, if you know how hard it is to get a building permit for anything.
Yeah.
You try and put on a small in-laws quarters, and it's like it takes an act of Congress. And yet these things, they said it's just a building frenzy, right? And it says in some communities, the result has been a vigorous and vocal backlash, including in California. They've packed town halls, prompted state and local political leaders to legislate limits on growth, amend them. Well, nobody's packing town halls to stop the Iran war. Nobody. That's not a thing.
So,
but they're packing town halls for this, which you're right. It's fascinating.
Yeah, because and Angel said, the grid rolling outages and things like that. And it seems like every summer we kind of get these big globs of fear, right? And it would not surprise me, because between that and race baiting and weather, okay, we're awfully busy trying to figure out where's the feardom, where's the truth, what's going on, is that weather event manipulated to cause that? And I mean, they could keep us pretty busy with heads down, not looking. So
as part of cognitive warfare, to manipulate our attention.
Yes.
And get us focused, ramped up, amped up, terrified,
and there's
fear-based. They're going to turn off our electricity. They're going to skyrocket our water bills.
And there's a comment on texting, on the texting line, move people out of rural areas. And there might be some people that move out of rural areas because they can't deal with that and get closer to a city. But which is sad. I love our ranchers and farmers. They're the heart. I think they're the heartbeat of America. I think that they are really who we are at our core, to tell you the truth. But I do believe that we're getting schnookered, and I don't know if people have realized yet that our technology is super tiny. And that we've only gone in that direction. If they would have done this in 1960, I think people would have believed it more, because we would have maybe needed the space. But they have a lot of data, and they don't need what they're building. So where's all that data? You know what I mean? So it's just ridiculous that we can't just ask better questions. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, we really don't know enough. We're not caught up to them. And they take us by surprise all the time. Like the commissioners who approved this data center in Utah said they had found out about it the previous week, and then were required to pass it.
They're such liars. These are the biggest cads. Oh my gosh. And it's the largest one in the country. And that's why we bring it up all the time. We're both in Utah, but we bring it up because it's the largest one. Yeah. And it got the fiercest.
Yeah. But it's just like everything else takes forever to get approved, forever to build. If you're in the private sector, right? All the environmental impact statements, all the, and these just, things just get sprung on us. And things, I think plans by the government have been in process for decades. They know it. And then the momentum is the focus becomes, how do we limit the public's reaction to it? How do we make it so that the public, so what you're going to start seeing is people rising up, but with individual leaders and personalities. They're going to start targeting those key figures who are at the forefront. And then they're going to make them seem extreme. Then there's going to be break-off groups, and the group's going to fracture. They know how to do this professionally. They do it professionally. And so that's why we don't know what we're up against. We're just debating the issue when there's a bigger thing happening.
Way bigger.
way bigger.
Wow.
I just wanted to mention really quickly while we were talking about this separately, Havana syndrome, that Trump's DOJ has charged Cuba's ex-president Raul Castro, who's 94, with murder. in shocking indictment filled with bombshell allegations. So he's the brother of Fidel Castro, and they said that he was part of the downing of 2 American civilian planes 30 years ago. And now he is facing counts of murder, conspiracy to kill American nationals, and the destruction of an aircraft. So this was a press conference today, and there's 5 other co-defendants, and it says a group of top officials, including Attorney General Todd Blanche, Florida leadership gathered at Miami's historic Freedom Towers to announce charges against the aging communist leader. It says for the first time in 70 years, senior leadership of the Cuban regime has been charged in the United States for alleged act of violence resulting in the deaths of American citizens. He issued a stern warning on behalf of President Trump. If you kill Americans, we will pursue you, no matter who you are, no matter what title you hold. So this happened in 1996 when the Cuban military shot down 2 unarmed aircraft operated by the humanitarian groups Brothers to the Rescue.
Right.
4 men were killed. So it's fascinating because I think a new Attorney General Todd Blanche, is he Cuban? I think he might be. He's from Florida. It says prosecutors allege there's a 12-minute recording in which Castro himself can be heard discussing the planning and execution of the deadly shoot down.
Okay.
So, I mean, 94, let's see. Well, but it's kind of a surprising, like, really? But I think they're targeting Cuba now. I think that the beginning of the end for communism in Cuba.
Well, we're going to be turned into a region with Canada, Greenland, all the way down. So it would make sense that it's just like Canada's in the news today too. We paused our defense coordination with them, and I'm like, no, we didn't. So it's a region. We're going to be a region just like EU, and they're moving toward it. And so that's why I think that with weather and with data centers and stuff, they keep us very occupied, thinking that you can fight all this stuff, or you're living in fear over them. And I think they're fake. They don't need them for data. It's ridiculous. So I don't know why, what the large buildings are for, but we'll have a show where we can put out some suggestions and some predictions on what those things are, because the government's guilty of building things often, all the way back, decades back, and then not telling us what it is. So it'll be interesting for sure. But
because computer things have gotten smaller, right? The smaller things now hold a terabyte and whatever the mega terabytes are.
Yeah.
And so why so much massive space? I remember as a little girl walking through an IBM computer center with my dad. It was when they had the big mega machines with the big tapes going. It was ice cold. And now, that fits on a thumbnail. I mean, that's super tiny, all that computing
ridiculous
power. So what?
Why? They're acting like it's 1960. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Exactly. You're right.
Yes.
You are so right.
You should push back. So somebody's asking you should push back, because how you get your county to regain its autonomy, because commissioners are told by the state they don't have any autonomy for counties, and they do. So it's a big fat lie. But the county commissioners are often so stupid, they don't believe that. And I think people should fight them, because the county commissioners always need to be reminded that the people understand that a county can say no to things. They can say no to the feds. They can say no to data centers. They can say no to all the garbage. And if we did that across the country, that would be the landmass of the country, or over 3,000 counties. So you fight for your county. You fight for everything that comes into your county. And you make sure those commissioners know by hordes of people that they're crooks and liars, and that they're not doing what the county wants, because that's all we have left in America. Constitution is there. No one's really using it, but it's there. And the feds have overrun their stay. When they say that the world is overpopulated, I want to go, no, the government's overpopulated. Thank you very much. But the government's overpopulated. So we So if we don't fight for counties and we remind them of their autonomy, just like we tried to during COVID, counties could have done whatever they wanted to do. And they played the whole Mother May I game from the state. They said, you know, oh, please, please, can we have our freedom? I mean, they sounded like jackals, you know, and
demanding.
Yeah, I mean, they were ridiculous. I mean, talk about pansies. But anyways, I just feel like people need to know that the county is all we have left. Your county and city can be autonomous. It's built that way. They can even go up against the education system. So it's all we have. And if that's all we have, and that's the card to play, then we need to play it. But what I'm trying to get through to people is that it's being built for something else, and that it is not about the data. It's not for the data, but but they want them in every county for a reason, the feds. So why do they want them in every county? So very interesting. I think they'll end up being prisons later on, but people just need to fight. That's all. So yes, fight for your county. Remind your commissioners.
Fascinating.
Yes. Oh, I appreciate you.
And if you go to a meeting, leave your phone at home.
Yeah, leave your phone at home. Yeah, they do the big net thing, so always leave your phone at home. I appreciate that. Thanks, Susan. Appreciate you. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow, and can't wait to have that some conversations tomorrow. Of course, go to katetalks.myshopify.com. Go get the ebooks. They're good. I've got an AI ebook that's good. Has all the ways that you can be on top by 2029 is kind of the deadline with AI. And so just you'll know why I say that when you go and get that book. But that ebook is at katetalks.myshopify.com. It supports the show. I need support. We're dangerously close to losing the show. So support the show if you can. Donate to the show, and of course buy the ebooks. And then of course the cancer ebook. The cancer ebook is amazing, and it talks about what to do. What's the shortcuts? What do you do if you get that diagnosis, and what not to do? It's 14 pages of solid gold. So go get that one too. katetalks.myshopify.com. Go to Cardio Miracle. Be faithful, be fearless, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. So